Welcome to the farm.
Welcome to the farm. I'm Justin, and today we're back on our Duramax head gasket replacement. In the last video, we got the driver's side head off the engine. Today we're going to go ahead, start getting the head ready, start getting the block ready, and hopefully get to a point where we can put this back in. So let's get started. So I'm going to start by cleaning my engine block, and the first thing I'm going to do is very, very lightly take a gasket scraper, and I'm just kind of going to go along the surface here, and I'm not applying any pressure. Start removing some of the bigger material. So now that I very, very carefully scrape the top of that engine block, which the directions do not say you should do, I just want to take a little bit of that higher stuff off just to make this next step a little bit easier. But I need to go ahead, take no coarser than a 600 grit sandpaper, a nice big long sanding block, and some oil, and we got to clean that whole surface down, get it back to a smooth surface, ready to take that gasket. Now we got the block looking pretty good, sanded down. I'm just going to go ahead and chase the threads in the block, make sure those are ready for the new bolts. All right, so we got the block outside, all ready to go. We got to sand it down. It's still going to have some staining, which is fine. Directions said that it doesn't need to be down to bare metal or looking bare metal. It's just got to be nice and smooth. So I think we accomplished that. I did go through, I think, 4 or 5 strips of sandpaper, just kind of working the rust ridges around and making sure I got all the old gasket material off. So I believe that's ready to go. Holes are tapped. It actually started raining just as I finished working on tapping the holes, so I think we're kind of done working outside today, but that's okay because we need to turn our attention to the head. And basically, I'm going to do the same thing I did outside. I'm going to flip the head over. I'm going to sand the deck of the head, get that all smooth, ready to go, inspect it, and then I'm going to work on cleaning up all the other gasket surfaces so that way when I put this back in, I don't have to do any work to the head itself. It's just bolting parts on. So before I go ahead and dive into cleaning up this head, I do want to talk about the 2 manifolds here a little bit. Now, I did buy a complete top-end engine gasket kit, which came with all the valve cover gaskets, and it came with the exhaust manifold gaskets and RTV for doing the intake manifold. I am not going to pull these off the head. I'm not going to replace those gaskets. They're not leaking. They're fine. I don't want to create more of a headache and more work for myself and run the risk of taking it apart, putting the new gasket in, damaging it while I take it apart, or breaking studs on and bolts on this exhaust manifold that are, rusty. So I'm just going to leave those alone and not put new gaskets in. But gaskets like this where I took it apart already, even if the gasket's looking really good, I'm just going to throw a new one on. With that being said, let's go ahead, dive into this head. Pop out these alignment pins. All right, so our head's looking really good. Sanded down pretty evenly, so I don't think we have any like real low or high spots. So I think we're good to go with this head. I don't think we have any issues. I'll go ahead and continue to clean it up. So we got one last thing we need to do before we can lift this head into place. There was that one bolt we had to leave in when we took the head out. We got to put that bolt back in that same spot. Otherwise the firewall will be in the way and I'll have to lift the head back out again, put the bolt in, lift it back in. So now the original bolts we took out, aside from the 4 smaller ones, are garbage. Once they're torqued and stretched, you can't retorque them, restretch them, they're done. You got to get new bolts. So instead of doing the bolt kit, I went with ARP studs. It's supposed to be a much better install, much more secure, and better for the head. So let's get this set up in that hole, and we can lift the head in. I got our washer, nut, in the hole. So I think we're on to the part that I am dreading the most. We're gonna have to lift this head back in place with the new gasket in place. The reason I'm dreading that is this is not easy to get in and out, especially by myself. It's heavy, it's awkward, there's not a lot of room to maneuver around. And if I damage this gasket putting this in, I won't know until I get the whole truck back together and go to start it up. And that's when I'll find out if I damaged it or not. And if I did, I gotta do this whole repair all over again, plus buy new studs and all that stuff, because the studs you can only use once. So I am really nervous about this part, but I guess there's nothing to do but get it done. Now we can place our gasket in. These are directional, this side up here on the corner. So we should be able to just set this right in. There we go. All right, so I got the head in place, set down. That actually went a lot better than I thought it was going to. Using this ground strap as a handle and leaving it on the head really, really helped a lot. I highly recommend doing that. But yeah, now we can go ahead, we'll get all these washer surfaces wiped off and we'll start putting our studs in. So I pulled a nut and washer off this rear one. Now these we're just supposed to thread in hand tight. And these are directional. The thread pitches are different, so you want the Allen head facing up towards the top. So in the kit comes with lubricant. It says we're supposed to lubricate the threads, the washers, and the nuts. So I got the threads lubricated, I got the washers lubricated, I got the face of the nuts lubricated. Now we got to start thinking about our sequence. And this is the sequence right here. So I'm going to start at the 1, work my way around, hand tightening all the nuts. All right, so the head's in, everything's lubricated, hand tight. Let's talk about torquing. So the directions that came with the studs say follow the manufacturer's recommended torque sequence, tighten the nuts in 3 equal steps to the following specifications. And that is 125 foot-pounds. So now the manual here says you're supposed to do the torquing in 4 steps. You're supposed to hit 37 foot-pounds, 59 foot-pounds, then you're supposed to tighten 60 degrees, and then tighten another 60 degrees. So we're only going to do the 3 steps. I'm not sure if I should follow the 30, the 60, 125, or if I should go 42, 84, 125. I'm leaning towards that just because that's what came with the stud directions. So I think that's what we're going to do, and hopefully it works out for us. All right, 42 foot-pounds. $84. $125. With all the studs in and torqued down, we can go ahead and put the top bolts in the head and torque those down to 25 foot-pounds. The head is in, torqued down. That is a huge accomplishment. I was really nervous about that. Just trying to snake that head in there and not damage the gasket had me so nervous. So I'm so happy that it worked out the way it did. There's just a couple other things I want to take care of on this side before we head over to the other side and start taking that apart. And that is I want to get the valve train all buttoned up and probably put that ground strap back up on the firewall just so that's done and ready to go. I'm going to start by putting all my push rods right back in the same hole they went in. And they had a little snap when they popped out, so just want to make sure they're seated in. Yeah, they're seating in. Next we can install our valve bridges in the exact same spots they came out of. Now I can set in my rocker arm assembly. So now we just need to torque it down in the proper sequence to 30 foot-pounds. So the last thing I'm going to take care of today is putting on this ground strap. And it's got a torque spec of 12 foot-pounds. Today we hit a huge milestone. We got our first head back in, valve train all assembled, everything torqued down, ready to go to set the valves. I'm not going to do that until we get to that point on the passenger side, and we'll lash all the valves at one time. It just makes sense to do it that way. So this feels like a good place to end this one. In the next one, we'll work on starting to tear into the driver's side, get everything off of that, and get ready to pull that head. Hopefully you guys found this interesting, you learned something. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.